Thanks again for joining me for another video. It's been a while since we talked about the national news in regards to the housing market, and unfortunately, we are seeing a lot more difficulty, a lot more pain in the housing market. In fact, the number of markets or metros that are experiencing price declines continues to increase, and it has been increasing really since the beginning of the year. And each month that goes by, we're seeing more and more metros get added to that list that are experiencing price declines. We're also seeing the highest buyer cancellation rates that we've seen in a very, very long time. So we are going to get into that and more in this video. I'll cover several different articles, and towards the end, I'll go ahead and summarize the data. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on. So first off, we can see here that the number of housing markets with falling home prices has jumped sharply to 109, up from 31 in January. So that is a huge increase. I mean, definitely the trend is moving towards more markets where prices are declining. Among the 300 largest metro area housing markets, these 109 are seeing falling home prices on a year-over-year basis. And here's a nice little heat map that kind of shows you a lot of the areas. Obviously, we're seeing a lot in California, a lot in Texas, and definitely a lot in Florida. Interestingly, there seems to be a pretty high correlation in these markets with a lot of the declines to the same areas that have been experiencing a lot of natural disaster risks as well as insurance issues. But of course, there's many markets across the country where prices are falling. Now, interestingly, as I've shared in a couple recent videos, on a national level, we are still up just slightly year over year, 0.2% year over year from June 2024 to June 2025. However, there has been a big deceleration across the country as a result of more and more markets going into price declines. And I really like how this article breaks down from the beginning of the year until now, how many markets have been experiencing declines, because it really shows us the progression. And I'll go ahead and link this article in the show notes down below if you want to take a look at it. But as you can see here, we were at 31 of the nation's 300 largest housing markets. So about 10% were falling year over year from January 2024 to January 2025. And then look what happened. As we go to February year over year, we see that it jumped up to 42. And then in March, it went to 60. And then in April, 80, May, 96. And finally, June up to 109. That was last month. And so this is obviously not a good progression. It shows that the entire housing market is getting weaker and weaker across the nation. And here they say, while 36% of the 300 largest housing markets are currently experiencing year-over-year home price declines, that share is gradually increasing as the supply-demand balance continues to shift directionally toward buyers in this affordability-constrained and post-housing boom environment. Next, let's take a look at this Redfin article. This just came out on the 21st of July. It says new listings of U.S. homes fall to lowest level in nearly 2 years. Now, this is kind of a change since my last update. We are starting to see less listings being listed in many markets, probably because sellers are realizing that there's a lot of competition. And so a lot of them are getting cold feet, or they just aren't wanting to put their homes in the market and compete with a whole bunch of other listings. So they're deciding to rent their homes out instead, or maybe put off their move, etc. And real quick, I want to say that if you need help selling a property here in Greater Los Angeles or North Orange County, reach out to me, let me know. Let's make sure your home isn't one of the ones that ends up sitting on the market. And if you are looking to buy a home, it is a great opportunity with all this supply and a lot of sellers that probably are going to be more realistic and willing to work with you to make a deal make sense for you. So feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is down below. And here they say sluggish home buying demand and a pile up of inventory are deterring prospective home sellers, some of whom are opting to rent their homes out instead of sell. Existing home sales hit a 9-month low as record home prices dissuaded buyers. So once again, as I've been talking about on this video, we are seeing sales really take a hit in many parts of the country right now. There's just a lot less transactions actually getting closed, obviously because of affordability issues and so on. And even with that said, we see that active listings are still up 13.3% from a year earlier, sitting near the highest level in 5 years. So there is still a lot of competition out there for sellers in many areas because there's a lot more homes that are sitting and not selling. And here they say the balance of power in the housing market has shifted toward buyers because listings have piled up and demand has slowed down, prospective sellers are feeling discouraged by this new reality. The slowdown in listings marks a reversal from the start of the year when the story of U.S. housing market was rising supply. Listings piled up because the mortgage rate lock-in effect eased and demand simultaneously slowed due to the high housing costs and economic uncertainty. Sellers were forced to lower their prices after watching their homes linger on the market for weeks and in some cases months. Now, some are opting to forego selling. So of course, for the sellers out there that don't really need to sell or don't really want to sell, those are going to be the ones that end up canceling the listings because they're not willing to lower the price enough to cause a buyer to actually buy the home. And so that's what they're talking about here. And here's kind of a big one. Roughly 57,000 home purchase agreements were canceled in June as high housing costs gave buyers cold feet. That's equal to 14.9% of homes that went under contract last month, the highest June rate in records dating back to 2017. So obviously that's not great news if almost 15% of properties that go under contract are ultimately getting canceled. We're already seeing the days on market before a seller typically gets an acceptable offer going up rather substantially. And now on top of that, there's a higher likelihood that a buyer will end up canceling that contract. So it'll be back to the drawing table more frequently for home sellers trying to get their property sold. And here's a nice little summary they did, and it shows us the median sale price here. And again, we are up 1.4%. So we see here total homes for sale up 13.3% year over year. That's quite an uptick. Median days on market is up to 39. That's up 7 days year over year. And this days on market, keep in mind, that is just the median number of days that a home sits on the market before an offer gets accepted and it goes into escrow. But this does not include the time that the home is in escrow, which can often be 30 days, even in some cases 45 days, nor the time that it takes to get the home back under contract if the buyer ends up canceling. So right now, if everything goes smoothly and you hit the median of 39 days, it's going to probably take 69 plus days to actually get a home sold. And that's if everything goes perfectly and you're using this median of 39 days. Now, obviously, different markets are going to be different. There are hotter markets and there are less hot markets. And so that factors in as well. And here's that same 14.9%. Pending sales that fell out of contract as a percentage of overall pending sales. Mortgage rates, as you can see here, have been pretty stable both month over month and year over year. So not much change in the last year for mortgage rates. And just a quick summary of some of the different metrics here. We have sales. Pending sales fell most in Florida. Fort Lauderdale down 11.7, Las Vegas down 11.3, Miami down 11%. Florida is definitely getting hit hard right now. We also have closed sales falling most in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and West Palm Beach. We have prices still rising in Newark, New Jersey, Detroit, and Cleveland, as well as some of the other areas. And then we have price declines in many areas such as Oakland, West Palm Beach, and Jacksonville. New listings are rising in Warren, Boston, and Cincinnati, and falling in San Francisco by a really large amount, Tampa, and Nassau County. And California is home to 5 of the 10 metros where new listings fell fastest. Active listings rose most in Vegas by 34.5% and Anaheim by 29.6%. So that is a lot of homes that are sitting on the market that aren't selling. Florida saw the biggest uptick in days on market. In Miami, the typical home that went under contract did so in 88 days. That is a long time. And then real quick, we'll just run through, this kind of breaks everything down by metro. And we see here, we have some prices still rising in Anaheim, falling a little bit in Atlanta. We'll just kind of move through this quickly here. Cincinnati, we're seeing quite a large price increase there, 5%. Cleveland, 8.1%. Columbus, 5.1%. So definitely more growth in price in areas that are probably less expensive, generally speaking. And Dallas, Texas, a small decline. Huge uptick in Detroit, but of course the median price is only $215,000. We have declines in Houston, declines in Jacksonville. Las Vegas, we're up slightly in price, but we also are seeing a huge decline in pending sales. Los Angeles also up slightly in prices, but again, a large decline in pending sales. And then even worse, in Las Vegas, we're seeing a huge uptick in active listings, and the same in Los Angeles. Nassau County prices rising, New Brunswick prices rising. Look at Oakland, down 4.6% year over year, and Orlando down 1.1%, Philadelphia rising, Pittsburgh rising. San Diego also down 3.1%, and Tampa, Florida down 2.6%. So overall, you can see we are still seeing a lot of price growth in different markets across the country, but we're also seeing price declines in many markets. We're also seeing a lot of building inventory, although that seems to be slowing down. So less sellers are wanting to put their home on the market in a market where there's a lot of supply already there that's not being picked up by buyers. And so we're seeing those active listings grow, but the supply of new inventory is starting to kind of tick down a little bit from what we saw for the first 4, 5, 6 months of the year. Overall, things continue to get weaker. It is not looking good for the housing market. However, it is possible that rates could start going down pretty soon. There's a lot of pressure to get rates lower, and we're going to have to see how that ends up affecting the market. So I'll be on top of it. I will keep you guys updated. Let me know what is going on in your market in the comments down below. I appreciate you guys watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.